Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to Detention. There is always a problem, certainly, with playing a horror game on YouTube because they kind of look at the first 5 minutes or so of a game as to what the tone of a video on YouTube is, not a game, um, to determine whether they find it YouTube family friendly, which is its own special definition that is somewhat close to what an average person would think is family friendly. So, in saying that, our next goal seems to be to go back to the dead body of Wei, slit his throat, drain blood from it into a ceramic bowl, put the ceramic bowl on the desk to get a combination for a combination uh, puzzle that is on a combination lock over here to the right. And with that statement, I'm sure I am now demonetized. Uh, there we had lingered a little too close for comfort, but I'm not sure what happens if you actually get caught. The fact that there are autosaves and hard saves does kind of imply that if we were caught, we would be killed and then have to load back to that save. Alright, well, let's put the bowl. Let's do this. They're really gonna make me do it? So we've cut him. And we've cut him a little bit. Now we gotta drag it further. Now we use the bowl. The blood drained into the bowl. The blood's draining into the bowl. Now we have a bowl of blood. And his eyes opened. When that happened. Which again, I think implies that what we are seeing, or the way we're perceiving reality as this character, seems to be wrong. And we are very possibly doing very evil things. Alright, so we'll right click and walk past this person. This ghost. But you can only hold your breath for so long. Okay, so now we have to go up to the 3rd floor and inside the bloody room and put this bowl of blood on this desk. Like, the only other objects we have that we haven't used is our notebook, which we'll probably never actually use as an interactable object, and it will just hold clues and notes. And honestly, it kind of feels like there's enough room for some other tags. So there might be some backstory. I feel like the game has kind of failed to give us some backstory so far. But I don't know what the 4th tab really would be. The blood sank into the marks. Now, I thought it was the paint thinner that was going to go into this, but I guess having 2 liquids was possibly a mistake, but whatever. We're not running into a ton of items. In most point-and-click adventure games, you don't end up having a ton of items, so the puzzles are pretty simplistic. The blood sank into the marks. What can I use to print out the engravings? Making a print with the notebook. So now we have a blood print. So we did use the the blood print as or the notebook as an interactable object. So 1 in Arabic numerals, which is numbers to the west, apparently equals 1 in what I would say is Chinese characters or Japanese characters, whatever, one or the other. I don't know if that's kanji or some other, or kanto or whatever the other one is. Kanto may not even be one of the writing styles. And then we have 1 in kind of Buddhist markings, but honestly I don't think this is even accurate, so this might be more of a code printed from the classroom desk. Notice how every clue we get tells you where you found it, which definitely implies that if you were to play this game a second time and speedrun it, it wouldn't take you that long, and they'd be very helpful. Written the symbols and numbers from Yi Ching, or the Book of Changes, the ancient Chinese divination text, a microcosm of the universe and a symbolic description of the process of change. So I don't know anything about that, but I definitely have seen numbering systems like this in like Buddhist symbology. My surface level understanding of Buddhist technology. The problem that you run into now is if we slit the throat of Wei and we've brutalized him once, it's hard to believe that we'll brutalize him again, or that we'll have somebody else to brutalize. We'll go and make a save here since we can. Not that I'm really afraid of anything happening. It would just kind of suck to lose progress. So the question, I guess, is just how close can you get before you have to hold your breath? So this should let us go up the right side of the map. So we need to check here. We had these dice that turned into teeth. We need a 6, a 2, and a 3 as a combination, which means we need kind of the X shape, then the castle shape, and then the sandwich shape. Is that what I would want to call this, the sandwich shape? Yeah, we'll just go with that. So X, castle, sandwich. So sandwich. And it's, I guess, questionable as just how many of different patterns really are going to be here. It could be a lot. It could be little. A click sounded from the lock. Or click sounded from the lock. I keep expecting to see some other horrific thing. They had stacked up a bunch of chairs and desks here, So there's basically nothing on this side to do on the second floor. Doors boarded up, can't get in. I mean, there's really, if this was a reality and not just a nightmare, somebody obviously has spent a lot of effort to trap a lot of people in those may have been bathrooms. And here we can see what looks like boarded up windows. And then this was the metal gate, and that seems to lead somewhere else. So let's go into this classroom and see what we can find. A save spot and another altar for praying, which we'll save. Might as well take that. Just a lot of boarded up things. You can't even look at the postings on that pegboard. So there's nothing new to see there. There's nothing written on the screen, so there's nothing new to see there. We had a creepy call that said someone was waiting for us on the 3rd floor. Our last point to go here would be this way, which I don't know where this actually is going to lead. It feels like this is where the end of a first act should happen. We should go to at least a different part of the school. Counselor's office. You can just walk all the way to the edge of that. So, for a point and click adventure game, you don't really expect there to be a boss fight. The only thing that we could use would be an offering or the necklace. It would be weird if this is kind of the end of the game, but this could be the end of the act. It's locked. Alright, we've got some kind of monster chasing after us. And the background has now changed as we're running. Did I miss something here? There may have been a door I was supposed to jump into. Yep, it's here. So the background changed from kind of plaster walls to brick walls. And we have now been chased into a room covered in writing. Let's see. Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha, Amitabha Buddha. I don't know if that just is a name of a Buddha or if that's a prayer. Someone wrote Buddha's name all over the wall. So I assume that's the talisman and protect the place. In the same way, in a Western game, if you were to draw a bunch of crosses for Christian symbology all over a wall, just because you have no better idea. Let's see. So we have a ripped piece of paper from the counseling record. Age 17, mother is a housewife, negative, troubled, attitude, constant tardiness. Remember, this is written up, down, so being ripped like this, you're only getting the bottom part of it. Gradually improving, require follow-up. Encourage leisure activities such as reading. Signed by faculty members, Counselor Cheng Mei Hu, or Why. Homeroom teacher Ying Su Han, Junior ROTC Officer by Garao Fong. ROTC, as I understand it, is the military preparation program it is in the West in the United States. But it'd be odd that there would be something like that in Taiwan, but who knows? That very well may have been instilled by the United States or the West. And then the principal is Shin Jin, which that I don't think is the name of the principal. Or maybe it is. I don't know. So this might be a very old record. It more than likely is your record, as a hint. Otherwise, I don't know what you get from this. If this is supposed to be backstory, good, that addresses my complaint about finding out backstory, but yeah, otherwise it's not really a hint. Can also note that while one person has signed their name in the box, 3 other people have done the more Asian thing of having an official family stamp, which is kind of a crazy old-fashioned way of signing your name. Hey, and with that, we are in a different act. And this definitely feels heavily influenced by the Cat Lady. I mean, even this room looks like a room from the Cat Lady series. So you can't even look at yourself. But yeah, you've got this dirty, stained shirt. You can hear screaming and arguing going on. My bed. I slept much better on my own bed. It's quite foggy outside. I can barely see the roads. Ray, they say I should enjoy my youth, but I find it difficult. What happens after graduation? Where should I go? Will I end up like Mom? So, it seems like she's probably living with distant relatives that probably have an Asian obligation to take care of them, but hate it and are not going to treat her very kindly. Her mother seems to have been cast aside in society or failed in life in some way. ... Sigh, stop worrying so much, Ray. Life moves on regardless. Be hopeful. At least this weekend's going to be. Somebody cleaned the desk for me, probably Mom. I feel like there's no privacy in this house. So, it does kind of seem like she's still living with the mother. So I jumped to some conclusions there. Well-bit closet. It was part of Mom's dowry. What? Mom's throwing my stuff away without telling me. An old photograph in the trash. The quote is written on it, remember, hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, no good thing ever dies. Interesting. I hate it when she does this. So, it seems to me there's a very high possibility that people often say not to look into a mirror at night. There's a decent possibility, I think, that the character we're playing as killed herself at the school or died at the school and now is a ghost or monster wandering around, wandering through her memories. This may be the afterlife. ... They're fighting again. ... Feeling a bit sleepy now. I should go back to bed. So apparently I was supposed to click on the door And it seems like you are trapped in this room. You have no choice but to go to bed. So the scene might be fine if a paper plane could whisk my dreams away from here. My fear is that we're just getting that slight intermission, as it were, of that one scene, and then we're going to wake back up in the same room. And if we wake back in the same room and we're still in the school, I don't know what is going to change. Really, it might be a second instance and things may have changed in the school, but I would have preferred to stay in the house area a little bit more and wander around the house instead of potentially just going through the school a second time. Where I could wake up and find myself in a foreign land to start a new life as a stranger to all. Oh, how wonderful that would be. And I just got an achievement. I didn't even know this game had achievements. But yeah, it does seem like that's exactly what's happening. I'm going to wake up again in the chair in the auditorium. And she is now, I guess, starting the cycle over, waking up as a stranger in a foreign land. It'd be really funny if there was a revelation that she wasn't even Taiwanese, and she was like American and didn't recognize that she was in Taiwan. Things are different. The command post. So this is the middle of the field? Well, this definitely seems more like it's old and battered. So it's not the auditorium. It seems like we are in a different part of the school, but still on school grounds. We were kind of effectively trapped on the school anyways because the bridge was washed away. Our flag pole stand. The rope keeps knocking the pole on the poles. It's supposed to take flags down in the middle of typhoons. Let's go to the right and see what happens. Like if she's in the middle of the field, then maybe she'll have to work her way back in here. This is a new animation. Definitely we are seeing more bricks now. This doesn't particularly strike me though as being part of the school. A puppet theater on a hand-drawn cart. During the summer break, the boys in class would use this as their battle tank. Unfortunately, they quickly broke the wheels. There's a note on the cart. An illustration of the lantern specter. If you chance upon a lantern spirit, avert your gaze and stand unmoving. When it comes near, still hold your breath. Do not pace, and it will keep on moving. Okay. So now we have a different type of monster. And we have in the foreground some horrific jarred things. These glass beakers here from our biology lab. They're each holding puppets insides. Puppets. So it looks like we're gonna do a creepy puppet show pretty quickly. A brick furnace. I remember back then Mom said she burnt spirit money to bless our health and good fortune. Always thought of it as closer to dealing with the devil. As I understand it, spirit money is effectively a scam that Buddhists do. I don't want to come off too cruel, but there are definitely some accusations that can be made that a lot of Buddhist temples are closer to gangs that are heavily relying on religious feelings. And one of these scams that they do is that a Buddhist monk will let you buy fake, counterfeit, effectively, money called spirit money with real money. So you hand a real dollar, or a Taiwanese dollar, whatever that would be called, to a Buddhist monk. They give you some amount of spirit money, which is useless, and then you are supposed to burn it to give money to ghosts. Why do ghosts need money in the afterlife? Who knows? Why that's the thought process and such. There is something a little bit odd to a Western sensibility about how a lot of Buddhist temples run themselves. A lot of people get forced into becoming or training at Buddhist temples. They force their kids to train at Buddhist temples, or even their their older children to be permanent monks, because they either are total screw-ups in their life otherwise, or they just want to kind of get rid of them, which it's basically a social safety net in a weird way. But then that leads to people pretending to be spiritual and going through the motions of being spiritual when they really aren't spiritual. Now, the West is not blameless of that either. There's plenty of evil people, and that's really the only term to use, who have joined or started religions in the West. Like, over and over again, you hear of bad people becoming Catholic priests, or Protestant priests, or in some other way a social worker or a worker for a church, when they have no business being there at all. I want to go back and check the other area here. The danger here would be to run into some kind of spirit that we don't know how to defeat yet, because then your only hope is to run away from him. But it is slightly different in Buddhism, as there is no kind of unifying body. One Buddhist temple has its master, and I don't think there's really a congress or a authority on top of that to have any kind of oversight. The field's collapsed here. Everything's flooded with into a river of crimson mud. There doesn't seem to be an end. Okay, well, good we checked that. That being said, again, Catholicism has a pope and a heavily established governing body, and it didn't really accomplish, really give oversight to a lot of bad Catholic preachers. In fact, it acted corruptly and covered up bad Catholic preachers and bishops and such. But yeah, it's probably admittedly easier as a Westerner to see the flaws in the Buddhist concepts and the mistakes I've heard about specific Buddhist temples. There's probably some really great Buddhist temples in the same way that there are great churches everywhere, but it's probably easier to see and point out those out, not being Taiwanese, not being Buddhist myself. Buddhism in the West is not in any way implemented or thought of as it is in Asian countries, and it's implemented and thought in different ways in different Asian countries. I think the Japanese barely care one bit about Buddhist traditions, and whereas I imagine Taiwanese and like Korean and countries might be much more spiritually inclined. Let's see, we've got another piece of paper. There's a note on the desk. Illustration, the Hai Bang Wu Chang. Black and white impermanence. According to legends, they are two ancient officials. During a routine inspection, misfortune befell them, and they perished trying to protect one another. The Lord of the Dead, seeing their loyalty, appointed them the duty of messengers of death. It was then that people who died would see them arrive to claim their souls. And they seem like they eat human flesh, looking at this picture. What would be really nice, if you were gonna, it would still be way more preferable to have voice acting, but if you weren't gonna do voice acting, but you were gonna try and make a deluxe edition of this game, I really wouldn't even call it a remaster of this game, just a deluxe edition, is if you could have a few more pages of backstory for foreigners, to just like a Wikipedia entry around these characters. The game is keeping it nice and concise for gameplay reasons, obviously, but a little bit more backstory would help us foreigners. It probably is 100% unnecessary for people in Asia. Alright, so we save, and let's see what these guys have to say. So either they have a really long tongue, and I need to get another long tongue for the guy, or I need to get some entrails between the hands, or something. The two figures are carved in on the door. They're supposed to be the guardians, but they look more like the Hai Ban Wu Chang. ... Their hands look like they should be holding something. What could be missing? Alright. So it seems like we have a puzzle in which we're going to have to put on a puppet show, potentially. And then we are going to eventually... I didn't mean to click on that. I wonder if the leg icon just implies that there isn't actually a door there. Yeah, it seems like we'll put on a puppet show and maybe even fix the wheels on the puppet show, and then we'll get the entrails. There's a downward, there's a door, there's an upward. Doors locked from the other side. This should lead to the atrium. We are definitely going to a different part of the school, but we still are very much in the school. This goes up to the roof. The gate's locked. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that that she climbed to the roof and jumped and she's dead. We've also lost our food offerings. Roots are growing out of the seams. The door is completely blocked. You have even different types of windows. So you'd almost have to assume that this building is older than the other school building, or newer than the older school building, and that's why it has different styles of windows, different styles of walls. A pungent mossy smell permeates. Maybe if we burn something, some spirit money, that'll go away. There are various films on this rack. They seem to be tangled together. You run into a problem with point-and-click adventure games. When you get the prompt to look at something, then it kind of blinks, so it looks like the prompt has gone away. Then you move a little bit, and it blinks back up. So the eye blinking effect here is unnecessary. We also don't have an animated effect on most of the other actions anyway, so it's inconsistent. You also have some inconsistency on just there not being anything to see. Definitely feels like there should be something you could look at here. Let's see what's playing. The film in the media room is being projected from here. A military education class often played political propaganda. The instructor always has a million things to say about whatever happens in the film. Are there any other films I can play? So you can't just look through it and see what's playing at the moment. Definitely feels like there's grass or moss all over the ground. So we're gonna find a film and play the film at some point. We may even end up jumping into the film or grabbing something out of the film, which would be spooky. The board's all moldy now. The slogan reads, "Leave your death in the hands of others." See, we have all these like creepy portions of a face here. The slogan reads, "Patriotism demands of us sustained sacrifice." One of those seems more realistic than the other. Okay, and so here we have incense in the offering bowl. Denmark grave embedded in the middle of the room. ... Shouldn't be anything buried underneath. There are 3 unlit incense stickers here. Do we take them or do we leave? I think you take them. That's an odd prompt. And when we took them, it now probably says our name. The grave of Wei Chung Ting. No, not our name, the name of the boy. Alright, Wei, he already... ... Is the legacy of the deceased always just a mere rock? So, the assumption here, there's more writing on the board now, I guess, is that this girl did know that boy. She just doesn't remember. When did all this writing appear? Snitcher. Is this about an informant? Oh, so maybe the story is that she snitched on the boy and got the boy killed, or the boy snitched on her and got her killed. Leave your death in the hands of others. Is that a lantern person? Just walk all the way to the darkness. Alright. That seems like that just ends there. Alright. So is this a lantern thing? Was not expecting them to be this big. There's definitely something creepy about a monster that big. But you can also see how these monsters that have been shown so far are not really that surprising of monsters. They're not creative in the sense that if they were actually from some alternate hell dimension or something, that they would have been designed in that fashion. They look very much humanoid with bilateral symmetry, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, things like that. They look like humans. Of course, if they are actually ghosts from humans, there's a decent reason why they would look like humans. But for the most part, almost every monster and demon is in no way close to something like a Cthulhu-esque design, where it's just like ununderstandable, unrelatable, something that you just cannot comprehend in your head at all, or that you haven't seen in nature before. And in all fairness, even Cthulhu, as he's described and depicted, is very much a squid-like creature, and so it isn't something totally new and totally random. So, a kneeling figure with a wooden token on its back. Can't really tell who it is with the hood on its head. So this does seem like she potentially snitched on somebody, and we're in water, and I feel like he's going to potentially be electrocuted, and I'm going to be potentially electrocuted. Wooden stalks and shackles. A bit of dried blood on the edges. Like, why would any school have this? This is crazy. This is much more nightmare than reality. This probably is not inaccurate of how the Taiwanese the military treated prisoners, though. Like, the Asians countries are not known for being particularly kind or peaceful to prisoners or people they're at war with. They tend to be incredibly brutal. The Japanese government during World War II most notably vivisected some live prisoners of war, literally chopping up the prisoners as they're still alive to allegedly do scientific research, but really just to torture and do something horrific. A kneeling figure. There's some blood on its hood. Will this be a new way in which you can save? Let's check. But you have these kind of upside down dragons holding the rim. Temple's divine incense burner. Before we pray, Mom always lights 3 incense stickers. She tells the gods her name and birthplace, and then launches into a spiritual drivel. She often lays her many problems and wishes upon them. Why does she not tell a real person instead of they fall upon an invisible god? So she doesn't particularly believe. And then there's an open one. Yeah, there definitely is an argument as far as real therapy. Here we've got some spirit money. Spirit money commonly seen at temples, burned to sacrifice to the spirit gods for fortune and prosperity. And the person just disappeared. Let's go in here and check this. A metal door, it's locked. Yeah, there definitely is a thought as far as what kind of criminals do they lock up here? And we have definitely some creepy. And I guess we have to look at it. We don't know how to defeat this kind of creature. The cell's empty. Smells like rotting plants. I'm not going to go in there. Alright, well. Let's go ahead and put this. I do as Mom does with incense in hand, ignoring the kinds of prayers she'd prefer. Yeah, there definitely is an argument as far as whether or not praying instead of talking to a therapist about your problems and your emotional needs is healthy. Arguably, it's probably alright to do both. It's maybe not so good to just do prayers. Most religions are to some level about people coming together and helping each other. So if you don't vocalize your needs, even if it is just a small emotional need for friendship or companionship, it's going to be impossible for your community, for other humans to hear that need and try and respond to it. I'm talking crossways with as the story goes here, so I hope we're following along. People are following along. Ignoring the kinds of prayers she'd prefer, I ask the gods only for a way to live as myself. Where she got the matches, I don't know. And here we hear a creaking. ... What was that sound? The gate opened, and I guess that means we can get this piece. Prison gate is open. The wood token on the statue's back is loose. So we get the token. So these are statues and not people? I think they're people. I would have assumed that, but I guess that's inherently the problem with the screen being somewhat zoomed out, although it's more of a problem for me because I'm playing this game 10 feet away on a TV screen, so if I had a computer monitor right in front of my face, I probably could see that it's more of a statue. Taken from the figure in the basement. Well, I don't know what the token is for, so it might go in the hands of the guards. We might need two things. So let's go back into this place and burn the spirit money, and that may give us the other thing. This game is definitely going to push the limit of my understanding as far as Buddhist traditions. And take note that while there are probably some stories around Buddha and Buddhism, it doesn't seem to be anywhere as complicated or long as the Bible is. We're not getting entire chapters talking about entire characters. We're not getting like a Ten Commandments or a resurrection, death and resurrection type story. Yeah, looking at this picture, one person is, I guess, holding a sword, although it kind of looks like you're still nibbling on it, and the other one is holding a fan. So I suspect we may get the fan here. Burning the spirit money. Oh, otherworldly spirit, I offer this spirit money to ask for your protection. The fire went out? Question mark? It's not supposed to do that. The furnace suddenly gone cold. Is there something in there? How can this be? It should have been reduced to ashes if it was inside. And so we now have a feathered fan. Okay, so we may very well not even put on a puppet show. Fan made of feathers. It appears to be in the furnace after burning on spirit money. I don't know why it's still intact inside. And here you can see these are all floating. Now I got caught. Is that game over? No. Apparently we are now back to the school. So either we've lost a life, or that was supposed to happen. It would be very weird with all the saving if that wasn't supposed to happen. These human-like objects are filled with evil over time. Deal with them as with the lingered. Also, I may have lost, and that maybe I should have. So I collect them all, scavenge from all the world, all the pain in the world. Foul thoughts gather and accumulate until the one day taking of life, oops, that went too fast, they begin to twist into a monstrous storm. Yeah, it's questionable as to why it would have me save if I was supposed to. If there were points like this, well, it would have just reset you. This is very similar to what happened in the cat lady, too, where you end up you end up dying in a few places in the cat lady, and it's not 100% certain whether you have to die in those sections or not. Like, you really are gonna have to hold your breath the whole time here. Barely made it through there. I don't know how you were supposed to recognize that that was supposed to be a lingered on the first try. I didn't get any kind of achievement for dying, so maybe I'll get a slightly worse ending for dying. Or maybe it won't change anything. The story seems to be fairly linear anyway, so it'd be weird to get a different ending just because you died. And you don't have multiple save slots, so we have to just lock in those two failures and call that a day, I guess. Yeah. So, at the end of this episode, we definitely are getting scary. I imagine this would be a lot more scarier for Taiwanese Asian people, but it's definitely doing this spooky thing. And we're moving forward with a story and an experience. I wish there was voice acting. That's something that I think the cat lady really did right. In comparison, though, I will say this game at least controls a lot better than the cat lady does, because the cat lady was a strictly keyboard controlled game, which is just insane. That it didn't have mouse point and click options. So on that level, I will say Detention has better interactivity, and but that's about the only thing I could say Detention seems to be better at compared to the cat lady. But I'm also comparing one indie game from like one developer that was really good to another indie game that looks pretty good. In the case of Detention, that was made by a few people, but still very much indie in my book. It's a shame that there aren't AAA games like this, or from big publishers and big developers, but they don't seem to exist. I don't know how much you really would even improve a game like this if a AAA team was on it. Honestly, I would like to see more games like this, either from AAA developers or indie developers or something in between, compared to better quality versions of the few games like this that do exist. But yeah, this game is going forward. It's telling its story. It is definitely leaning closer to being a incomprehensible nightmare than being a fully thought out universe and world of spooky events, which is fine. That definitely happens in horror stories all the time. But yeah, everything's going. The puzzles may be a little too simplistic. It definitely did suck that I died, because that may very well be the only death that happens. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something behind the next door we open that is just like a movie film, and then we change the movie film and see something that gives us a key to get into the locked room, and then something in the locked room gives us a key to the roof, and then that would be the end of this act, and that might very well be the end of the entire game. I doubt they're going to try and chase us through the entire school hallways with a monster and have one long chase sequence. I doubt we're going to have a boss fight. We may have a slightly complicated final puzzle, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's just as simplistic as all the others. Anyways, we've been going about an hour again. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me, there's a bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.